Have you ever looked at an election ballot and just felt totally exhausted? You know, that sinking feeling that no matter who you vote for, nothing really changes? It's a feeling that's spreading all over the world. But what if the problem isn't the candidates? What if it's the entire system of politics as we know it? Okay, let's dive into a truly radical diagnosis and an even more radical cure.
And that really brings us to the core question here. When the whole system feels rigged and your choices feel kind of meaningless, where does your power actually lie? It's a question that, believe me, leads to some very unexpected places.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at this crisis of trust that so many of us are feeling. Then, we'll get into the wild diagnosis of the problem, something called the organizational cartel. From there, we'll check out a proposal for a completely new way of running society, its very first mission, and finally, what all this means for you right now as a voter.
All right, so let's start with a feeling that has become way too common in modern democracies. That sense that your vote doesn't really matter because the whole game is broken.
The source material we're digging into today doesn't pull any punches. It starts by looking this deep public cynicism right in the eye. You know the feeling, that both sides of feeling, that corruption is everywhere and that there are just no good options left. So what's really going on? What's the disease causing all these symptoms?
Well, to answer that, the speaker offers a pretty powerful diagnosis. They argue it's not about left versus right or one politician versus another. The real problem is baked into the very structure of our political system.
And here's the crucial point. From this perspective, the party in power and the party trying to get into power, they're just two sides of the same flawed coin. Sure, they fight each other for control, but they're both part of a structure that, at the end of the day, only serves itself.
And that's where this key idea comes in, the organizational cartel. This is the speaker's term for any powerful group, a political party, a huge corporation, even a religious institution that gets its power from the people, but then uses that power for its own survival and its own benefit, not for the good of society.
And to show just how serious this is, the speaker uses some really strong language. The argument is that these cartels ultimately see the public as dogs and pigs, only useful when they need your vote or your support to stay in power. After the election, you're forgotten.
So if the diagnosis is that these organizational cartels are the disease, what's the cure? Well, hold on, because it's not some minor reform. It's a complete reimagining of how society is even structured.
Okay, get this. The proposed solution starts with a pretty shocking first step, getting rid of the main source of the problem. According to the speaker, political parties have to be abolished entirely. The logic is that as long as parties exist, their main goal is always going to be to protect themselves, which just creates more division and conflict instead of actually solving problems.
And this slide really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you have the old system, with parties just fighting for power. But on the other, you have a new system, built around a completely different kind of organization, with a totally different reason for being.
And this new type of organization is called social parents. Now, these aren't politicians in the way we think of them. Instead, they're imagined as people who've literally decided to dedicate their lives to serving society and tackling its toughest challenges. They don't do it for power or fame, but out of a sense of duty, kind of like how a parent cares for their child.
But look, an idea this big can't just happen overnight. It needs a starting point, a real urgent mission that can bring people together and prove that, hey, this new model can actually work.
And the mission chosen is profoundly serious. For years, South Korea has tragically had the highest suicide rate among all developed countries. The speaker says this is the most urgent crisis to solve, a national tragedy that the current political system has completely failed to fix.
The vision here is just huge. It's laid out like a global chain reaction. Step 1, unite these social parents in Korea with one single focus, achieve suicide zero. Step 2, if they succeed, that victory doesn't just stay in Korea, it becomes a new model for the entire world. From there, a global movement could start, which could create a whole new way of thinking about politics, welfare, and education.
Okay, so that's the massive, world-changing vision. But what does it mean for you, an individual, standing in a polling booth tomorrow? How are you supposed to act when you're still stuck in the old system?
While the speaker brings it all back to a fundamental principle of democracy. In the end, the highest authority isn't a political party or news anchor or some leader. It's your own judgment, your own conscience.
So, here's the practical takeaway.
Don't let anyone tell you how to vote. Listen politely to the candidates, sure, but when you're alone in that booth, you make your own call. And this is the really powerful part, if you look at the names on that ballot and you honestly believe none of them are fit to lead, you have another option. You can submit a blank ballot.
And this is not throwing your vote away. Not at all. In fact, the speaker frames this as one of the most powerful statements you can make. It's a deliberate vote of no confidence. It's a protest that says, none of you are good enough. A message that, according to the speaker, even God would say, well done to.
And so we're left with this massive question. We've gone from total frustration with politics to a radical reinvention of society, one led by social parents instead of political parties. Is that just a wild dream, or is it a necessary evolution for a world that's just sick and tired of broken politics? Definitely something to think about.